Good morning. As I was walking into our church one day that I can't remember, it was Carmel Route or One Direction route I was walking in. And I was walking against the traffic because it's one-way traffic. And I was quite unclear, there's no car in front of me, so I just walking. Then suddenly I heard a horn. Bang! Look behind me. There's a car behind me, facing me. But I was walking in the one direction route and against the traffic, and there was a car behind me, facing me. Then I turned around and I looked at the lady driver, and the lady driver asked me, go away. So I go and do it. So she drive past me. And she was trying to park in front of me. Then after that, one car came in and stopped in front of her, asked her why down the window, and tell her, I explained to her that she was driving against traffic and it was a one-way direction. Then she was looking out frantically for signs and all this kind of thing. So she didn't see the sign. And this reminded me of a story. There were three drivers. And the three drivers were driving. And there was this lane, it was a one-direction lane. And there was no entry sign. But the three drivers drive into this lane. But lo and behold, there was a traffic police at the corner. The traffic police came and stopped all the three drivers, so all the three cars stopped. So the traffic police went to the first driver, asked him why down the window, and asked him, did you see the sign? What sign? So the no entry sign. And it's a one-way direction. The driver was like, I didn't see the sign. I'm sorry, I didn't see the sign, but he got fined. So he went to the second car, to the second driver, and asked him why down the window. He says, did you see the sign? The second driver said, yeah, I saw the sign, but I didn't see you. So he was just taking a risk, thinking that he would not get caught. So he went up to the third driver and asked him why down his window. He said, did you see the sign? The driver said, yeah, I saw the sign. Okay, then the traffic police asked, so did you see me? The third driver said, I saw you. But he didn't care. There's no regard for the law or the law enforcer. Actually, this speaks of people like us today, isn't it? In our end times, there are three types of end times people. The first type is like the first one, the first driver. It's a blur type. It's a blur driver. He doesn't see any sign. All the signs are there, but he didn't see anything. You see, what sign? What sign? First one. The second type of end times people are like the second driver. He's like a gambler. He saw the sign. He didn't see the traffic police, so he's going to take a risk. And I will not get caught. I can do anything as long as I don't get caught. The third type of end time people are the third driver. He saw the sign, he saw the traffic police, but he didn't care. I call this the apathetic people. They're apathetic about anything, they don't care. There's no fear of God in their eyes. End times, what are the signs? Are there any signs in the first place? If there are, what are they? And this brings us to our passage today, Matthew 24. And Jesus was walking out from the temple. And it was a magnificent temple. Something like this. You see the picture? It was very big. And if you see, there was this whole extension here. It was a very big temple. And it was magnificent. It took 65 years to build it. And it was built by a very clever architect, King Herod himself. He built this whole temple for the Jewish people. And looking back at the temple, the disciples point out to Jesus and say, look at this, it's fantastic. They were amazed by it, they were proud of this temple. In verse 2, Jesus says, this temple that you see, you'll be torn down. Not even one stone will be left on the other. Whoa, that's serious. And the disciples were curious. So at verse 3, they came to Jesus privately and says, when will this happen? What are the signs of your coming? And what are the signs of the end time? So they were curious about end time. So Jesus, from the following passage, verse 1 to 14, showed them that there are 7 signs of end times. I'm going to go through with you very quickly the 7 signs of end time, verse 4 to 5. Sign number 1, false teachers, false Christs, false prophets. There will be a lot of people who impersonate Christ, who claim to be people of God, impersonate to be prophets from God himself. And verse 11 says that again. Take a look at verse 11. He repeats that again. It says, And many false prophets will arise and lead many astray. And verse 23 to 26 says that against them many Christs will come, many prophets will come. So there will be many heresies. Sign number 2, verse 6 to 7a. It says there will be wars and rumors of wars. Sign number 2, there will be man-made disasters. There will be many types, not just wars, but many types as well. But this is just a form that they know at the time: wars and rumors of wars. In fact, our last century we have experienced, or we have seen, not experienced, but we have seen and heard that we have 2 major wars that have already taken place. First World War and Second World War, and there were countless wars and battles and skirmishes in last century. Yesterday, Friday night, we have our Bible study together in my house, studying this passage. And the next morning, woke up, we switch on our handphone and the news feed of what happened to France. There were 5 coordinated attacks, killing 100 over people. Wars and rumors of war. It just happened when we were just studying about it. Next day, we saw this sign. Sign number 4. Sign number 3. Natural disaster. Verse 7b. Verse says that there will be earthquakes, famines and earthquakes in various places. There will be. And again, the Saturday morning after we studied this, we woke up and one of the news feed was there was an earthquake at Japan at 7.0 magnitude, and also at Mexico as well. So there will be countless of these natural disasters. Could be disease, could be sickness, could be famines, earthquakes, and all. Sign number 4. At verse 9, Jesus told the disciples that he will be hated by people. People will kill you, people will put you to death for my name's sake. Persecution. Persecution is the next sign that we will see. That is a sign of end time. In fact, last century, the 20th century, they've calculated that there were more Christians being murdered than all the past 19 centuries added together. Just one century, they're more than the summation of the past 19 centuries. I'm going to show you an example of persecution. This year, in April, there was this Christian baker who was asked to bake a cake. And this cake was for a lesbian marriage. So this Christian couple says, "No, sorry, we don't support gay marriage." So they refused to bake the cake. And they got sued in the court, and they have to pay a fine of 135,000. And they have a cruise shop. And at that time, they have a cruise shop. Do you think it will come to us? It is coming nearer to Singapore, actually. Nearer and nearer. That's the thing that it will not happen to us. Sign number 5, verse 10. It says, "And then many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another." Dropouts. I put it dropouts. Or the technical word for it is apostasy. Dropouts. Professing Christians will give up their faith, they will fall away from their faith for various reasons. Possible reasons: number 1, persecution. We just saw that before, the verses before that. Persecution is one possibility. You see the pressure on Christian faith so deep, so hard, they give up their faith. Second possibility, it could be a temptation. Because the love of the world, the lure of the world is so big, they give up their faith too. And it could be many other reasons. You will disappoint the church, you will disappoint the leaders, and all, they give up their faith. And we see all this happening. Sign number 5. Sign number 6. Verse 12. The verse says that, "And the lawlessness will increase." Increase of wickedness and lawlessness. Well, Jesus is not saying that people of this generation is better than the people of, is worse than the people of the previous generation. Like most of parents will say, "When I was a kid at your time, I never do this kind of thing." Correct. A lot of parents will tell us this kind of thing. So is it true? No, because we know that people have always been wicked. And Genesis chapter 6, God sent a flood to destroy the whole earth because they were already very wicked. So it's not that this generation is worse off than the previous generation. The previous generation worse off than the previous. No, Jesus is not saying that. But I think what Jesus is saying is this: is that the act of evilness and immorality is easily passed on or increased in greater magnitude. It's easy to pass on sin or to practice their sin and immorality from generation to generation. Maybe with increase of technology, example, scam, people want to bluff their money. They need not come to you in person anymore. They just have to send text messages. And they can get your money through text messages. Increase in immorality and lawlessness. Example, pornography. You need not go to a shop to buy videotape anymore. It is in your hand, in your palm, in your handphone. Lawlessness and immorality is so prevalent, so easily with increase of technology. Last time, one arrow killed a person. 2 days, yesterday morning, one bomb killed at least 5 to 6 persons, and injured countless of people. The immorality and wickedness increased because of technology too. Last sign, verse 40. Gospel wildfire. It says the gospel of the kingdom will proclaim throughout the world, the whole world, and the testimony to all generations. The gospel was spread like wildfire. In the first century, the Christian gospel reached Israel, Europe, part of Europe, and a small part of India. And it was saturated, after that it was saturated in Europe. In the later part of history, we see that Christianity actually spread over to North America. But today, the statistics shows that there are more Christians in Africa, South America, and in Asia than in Europe, actually. So the gospel has spread throughout the whole group now. In verse 8, Jesus pointed out something very interesting. He says, all these signs will be like beginning, what the disciples are seeing will be like beginning of birth pangs or birth pain. Verse 8 says. What's the beginning of birth pains or birth pangs or birth pains about? 5 years ago, no, 4 years ago actually, at 4 a.m. in the morning, Esther woke me up. He says, I think I need to go to the toilet. I said, oh sure, go to the toilet. Then she came out, there's nothing. Your stomach ache? She said, yeah, I feel like stomach ache. I said, okay. At 5 o'clock she woke me up, I need to go to the toilet. I said, really? Okay, sure. Then after that, 5:30, 5:45, it was initially 1 hour, then half an hour later, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, then 15 minutes later, then 10 minutes. Then every 5 minutes she tell me, she need to go to the toilet, she got this urge. Then she asked me, is it because I'm going to give birth? I said, I'm not too sure. Because I don't have experience. So, but you can see the intensity, the frequency increased from 1 hour to half an hour, 15 minutes. Then after 3 minutes, then again we said, you better take a cab to the hospital. So we flew a cab, we went out to KK Hospital. Before we flew a cab, Esther told me, hey, why is not give birth? Then very nice. Very shy, no more give birth. So we went to KK Hospital. And we read in at 7 o'clock. We do all registration. 7:10, you can see that her face was changing. Esther's face was changing because the pain has intensified. And then she cannot even walk, so she had to be wheeled into a room. All the mothers were there waiting. So I had to wait outside. Within 5 minutes, the nurse woke up and says, who is Esther Paul's husband? And I said, me. I said, quick, your wife's going to give birth. So I quickly ran to the room. She wheeled her into one room, prepared the room in 10 minutes. At 7:20, Esther was screaming with pain. She said, it's very painful. I said, okay, relax. I will pray with her. 7:30, 10 minutes. 2 pushes, the baby is out. The delivery was very fast, faster than McDonald's. So what is this birth pain about? Well, the birth pain has these 2 things that we have to do. Right? This beginning of this birth pain or birth pangs, that there will be increase in frequency. 1 hour left, half an hour left, 15 minutes left, every 5 minutes, every 3 minutes. There was an increase in frequency, and there was an increase in intensity too. Getting paid more and more painful. At first she can still relax and go to the toilet. Later she cannot even walk. And in the room she was screaming and she was grabbing my neck. It was increased intensity. Same. The 7 signs that Jesus was talking about will increase in frequency. and they have been increasing in frequency. And they will increase in their intensity as well. You see that? So what should be our response when we see all these signs? Well, at least Jesus tells us 2 things that we should take note of. Verse 4, Jesus says, see to it that no one leads you astray. And verse 6, Jesus says again, see to it that you are not alarmed. You are not alarmed. Yeah. So the first one application I will give to you. Do not be alarmed but be on guard. Do not be alarmed but be on guard. Do not be taken by surprise when evils are happening. Yes, we are surprised on Saturday when we open our newspaper and what's happening to France? You're all looking at it. We are surprised, but Jesus says, don't be too surprised as if you don't know what's happening. The Bible very say that such evilness will increase. Wars and rumors will increase in frequency and in intensity. So do not be surprised. Second, do not be naive. You must be on guard. Do not be naive to believe anyone who claims to be Christian, anyone who claims to have authority from God, anyone who claims to be the Messiah, to be Christ, anyone who claims to be pastors. Do not be so naive to believe every doctrine. Then Jesus says, when all this happens, when see all these signs, verse 14b says, finally, the end will come. Okay, I'm going to show you a picture, a timeline. It is like this. Do you see this slide here? Okay, how do I picture? Yes, you see, technology will fail us. This is increasing frequency. Okay, I'll show you the picture again later. Okay, never mind. Okay. Then Jesus was answering the disciple, what are the signs of end time? The disciple asked him 3 questions. The signs of end time. Jesus answered the first one. How about this temple? What's going to happen to this temple? How about this magnificent temple? Verse 15 to 31, Jesus says, what's going to happen to this temple? Or sometimes it's called a second temple. It's the second one that they built. Verse 15 says, Jesus says, there will be this prophecy that will be fulfilled. And the prophecy by Daniel himself, and it's called Abomination of Desolation. And it is a very localized place. In verse 16 says, is that Judea, people in Judea must flee to the mountains, run to the mountains. Why? Verse 17 to 22 tell you, because it's a horrifying, terrible time. It is a terrible time. If you are pregnant at the time, good luck to you. And you pray that it will not happen at winter, because it's a horrible, terrifying time. What is Jesus talking about? What is this abomination of desolation? We need to take a look at Daniel, but we are going to flip it, don't worry. I'm going to give you the background to Daniel. In 3 portions in Daniel, this abomination of desolation was quoted. It was chapter 7, chapter 20, 12, or 11 and 12. So what is this abomination of desolation? Well, it basically is talking about the temple. The context of desolation, abomination of desolation, is basically talking about the temple, the Jewish temple at the time. And there were 2 things that will happen to the temple. The temple will be defiled, and the temple will be destroyed. This is the 2 things that we talk about the temple. So basically the context of Daniel is saying that abomination, which is something that God hates because they're going to defile the temple, and the temple will be destroyed. And it did happen. When Daniel wrote that, it was in the 6th century. When the book of Daniel was there, it was 6th century. And about 400 years plus later, it really happened. I'm going to show you this picture. It happened under the Empire of Greek. This guy called Antiochus IV. Epiphany is the name that he gave himself. It really means that God man. Okay, so Antiochus IV. This is a Greek general, and at the time, in BC 168, he actually attacked Jerusalem. And he went to Jerusalem because the Jews were actually going against him. So he went to Jerusalem, he killed a lot of Jews, and he went right into the temple right into the Jewish temple. And what did he do? He offered a pig on the altar. Whoa, that was really an abomination to the Jewish people, something that unclean, it's an unclean animal, and he offered that on the Jewish temple in the Jewish altar itself. He purposely offered a pig on the altar. So the people got so offended, but he can't do anything because this general came and killed many Jews. Not just that, he also erected a statue of Jupiter, which is a Greek god, right in the temple of the Jews. And after that, he closed the temple, he forbid any worship of Yahweh, God himself. It happened in BC 160. So what is Jesus talking about in verse 15, Matthew 24:15? He says, this similar thing to the temple is going to happen again. And it's going to be, there will be a similar and final defilement and destruction of the temple. And true enough, after Jesus died and rose again and ascended to heaven, less than 40 years, in the year AD 68, there was this Roman general, Titus. He wasn't a Caesar yet, but he was a general. The general Titus came, he laid siege of Jerusalem in AD 68. And for 2 years, or 2 years plus, no food supply and no water supply for Jerusalem. Because the Jewish people again revolted against the Roman Empire. So after 2 years or so, he finally went in, broke the wall, part of the Jerusalem wall, went in year AD 70, he went in and killed many Jews. And at that time, the soldiers were camping outside for 2 years plus, they were already going crazy. The Roman soldiers were going crazy, and they were all bloodthirsty. So when they went into the Jerusalem, they killed anything that moved, anybody who is a Jew, whether child, adult, male, female, old man, sick, pregnant woman, whatever, they just killed. And it was described by the historians that was so bad that blood was actually flowing down from the temple steps. And there were piles and piles of body, and the soldiers were just running on top of these piles of body just to slash and kill people. And they got so crazy, they went into the temple, the Jewish temple, they start killing all the priests or non-priests, they just kill. Because anything that moves, they just kill. And they got so crazy, they actually burned the whole temple. And General Caesar asked, the General Titus actually asked them not to burn the temple, but they have already gone crazy. They went in, they burned the temple, they destroyed it, until it was like what Jesus says, there's no one stone left on top of the other. Until today, the temple is still totally destroyed, very underground. At that point, it is a very distressing time for the Jews. So Jesus says, for those who are in Judea, run to the mountain. Verse 9 says, if you are pregnant and you are nursing mother, it's going to be a terrible time. Woes to these pregnant women, mothers. And verse 20-21 says that there will be a frenzy against the white people. And it was that bad. And at the time, the Jews were all scattered, running for their lives, though if they can escape in the first place. And at the time, there are many people who rise up thinking, claiming himself to be Messiah for the Jews. He's going to deliver the Jews from all these troubles. And verse 23-28 says so. It says that there will be the rising of false Christs, claiming to be a Messiah for the Jews. In fact, in the first century, there were many false prophets and many false Christs. And the responsive reading that we read just now, to the back, it was written in the first century by John, the Apostle John himself, and says, my dear children, I want to tell you that this is the last hour, this is the end time when Antichrist came. In fact, there were already many Antichrists in our midst. This is what John is telling them. There were many Antichrists, false prophets, false teachers, and false Christ. And some of them claim that they've seen this Christ in the desert, or in some obscure inner room. You see, no, now you see, only I see. So it's that obscure knowledge of Jesus. But Jesus says, no, that's not what it's going to be like when he comes. Verse 27 and 28. Jesus says, when he comes, it will be very obvious. Just like lightning that strikes on the west, you'll be seen, the east, you'll be seen in the west. It's that obvious. The whole sky will be lit up. It's that obvious. And where crop sees the vultures together, it's just saying that it's almost impossible to miss, because miles away you can see the vultures circling around the area. So now that will be some crops together. So it's that obvious that it cannot be missed. And after this tribulation, verse 29 says, after this tribulation, in the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70, the destruction of the second temple, the massacre of Jews, will we have peaceful time? Verse 29 says, no, don't expect peaceful time. The sun will be darkened, the moon will not give off its light, the stars will fall, and the powers of heavens will be shaken. What is he talking about here? Well, it is not literally saying that the sun will be darkened. Like last month, during our haze period, we can't hardly see the sun really shining brightly. Right? We say, oh, the sun is darkened. No, it's not really there because this month the sun shines again. So it is actually a poetic form of saying this, of saying times of distress. It's the Old Testament way of saying it. You can see it in Ecclesiastes 12, you can see it in Isaiah, Jeremiah and Joel. These are all used in the same phrase of darkening the suns and the moons and heavy bodies. It's really talking about time of distress, talking about God's judgment. So I put there, this sun, the moon darkened, and the stars falling. It's used again in Revelation. It's talking about times of distress. It is true because we see those 7 signs, the signs of suffering, signs of persecution, signs of disaster, man-made or otherwise, or false teaching. These are already there. The signs are there, and it's a time of suffering. And remember, it will increase in frequency and intensity. It is a birth pain. Then Jesus says, then the end will come. Then he will come. It will be obvious to everybody, and there will be 2 responses when the king returns. There will be mourning, and there will be gathering. What does it mean? Well, the king will return, mourning because the nations will mourn because it's a judgment day. But there will also be gathering. Jesus will send out his angels to gather his elect. It's also a time of final salvation for God's people. So it's a time that people will mourn, they will cry, and they will weep, because it's so terrifying. But it's a time for Christians to rejoice too, because Jesus is coming back to get us. Let me show you a picture. I hope it appears. Okay. This is supposed to appear just now. Jesus was telling people, we are here. The disciples, Jesus and the disciples were here. And this whole period of time will be a time of distress, and their 7 signs were all there. Then the end will come. And there's one other thing that he said. There was one particular event that they must look out for, which will happen during the disciples' time. And in fact, most of the disciples, -2, most of them witnessed this whole event, the fall of Jerusalem, at AD 70. It happened. It's already taken place. Verse 32 to 41. Can you read the signs? Can you see these 7 signs? Can you see what's happening to our world today? Verse 32 says, when you see a fig tree, it turns soft, the branches turn soft, it gives off its leaves. You know that summer is near. Right? Jesus says that it's the same way. When you look at these signs, they're increasing in intensity and in frequency, you know that Jesus is coming back soon. How soon? Verse 23 tells you, it's so soon. It's just at the doorstep. So soon. At the introduction, we say there are 3 types of end-time people. The blurred one, who can't see the signs. When the signs are all there. Second, the gambler, who sees the sign, but they are taking a risk. You see, it may not happen to me, I may not be caught. The third one, they saw the sign, they know there will be judgment, but they don't care. The question is, what kind of end-time people are you? The blur, the gambler, or the apathetic? All these will come to pass. It will happen. Whatever Jesus says will come to pass. Verse 35, Jesus says, the heaven and the earth will pass away, but my word will be fulfilled. My word will not pass away. And in fact, what he said came true. AD 70, what he spoke about, the abomination of desolation of the temple, it took place within 1 generation. In AD 70, the whole temple was destroyed. What more were all the other signs that he spoke about and his final coming? All these will take place. The question is, when will he come? When will be the final end of this age? This is the last question that the disciple asked. When will be the coming of the sign of the last age? This is the last question. Verse 36, 41, Jesus says, no one will know. No one will know the exact time. Verse 36 in fact says, only God the Father in his sovereignty decides when will be the time. Not the angels, not the Son of God. And what will it be like when Jesus is back on that day? Well, when Jesus is back, things will be, and life will be as per normal. Looks like it's normal. Will be like the time of normal, Jesus said. It will not be like what a lot of people portray, like some kind of nuclear war happening, and all of people will hiding underground in some drain, all very good. The only color is grey and black, and you all like angels come and you will not be. Neither will there be some kind of zombie attacking, and then at times then all of us are hiding in caves and mountains. In Singapore, no caves and mountains for us to hide. Only one working in town. How? Then we all die there. All the zombies will come. No, it's not going to be like that. Jesus says it will be like the time of Noah. What will people be doing? What were the people doing at Noah's time? Eating and drinking, marrying and giving to marriage. It's a normal time, normal thing that they do every day of their life. So when Jesus is back, it's going to be like that. All of us will still be queuing up for Char-Kway-Teow. Maybe you queue halfway and see the bright light behind you. If it's iPhone 7 come out, Singapore will still be queuing up for iPhone 7. If you look, they're going for school, going to work, coming back to watch TV, looks as per normal. Once in a while you see a terrifying news, you're like, whoa! Then after that you go back to eat your Char-Kway-Teow. You, whoa! Then you still go queue for your iPhone 7. It will be like that. Things will be as per normal. But what will happen? Verse 39 says, people will be unprepared and be caught by surprise. Just like the days of Noah. Just like two men working in the field, verse 40, 41, one will be taken. Two men working in the two women working in the mill, one will be taken, one will be left. It will be sudden and it will be surprised. It will be surprised, verse 36, and it will be sudden. The second coming is soon. It will take place because the heaven and earth pass away, but the word of God, the word of Christ will not pass away. We do not know when. How? The question is not asked what time, which day. This is not the question. The question we should ask is, how then shall we live? How then shall we live in waiting for the second coming? To be honest, in the church history, there are stories of people, the pastors gathering, the people says, Jesus is going to come back at this day, 22nd November, or whatever time, 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock noon. Come, let's go to this mountain. So the church pastor actually gathered the whole church member who needs him, wait for Jesus to come. Waited. Nothing happened. It happens in our history. So should we do that? My brother-in-law told me about one of his Christian friends in this church. I don't know what church is that. This church leader, pastor says, within 1 year, within that year, Jesus is to come back, sell all their business, sell all their possessions, just enjoy their life. So one day my brother-in-law was working in a shopping mall, and he saw his friend and his wife working. He said, hey, what are you doing here? You are not working today. He said, oh, we sell all our business. Jesus is going to come back within this year, so we just enjoy ourselves. But that was like 20 years ago. So should we do that? Should we just eat and drink and be married for tomorrow? We will die. Is that how we should live? No. Verse 42 to 51 tells us we must be alert. We must be alert. So Jesus says, be alert, because you do not know when. You do not know when He's going to come back. And being alert doesn't mean that we sit there and do nothing. In fact, verse 44 tells us to be alert really means you must be ready. Therefore, you must be ready. To be alert means you must be ready. And just give an illustration of the thief coming, and you do not know when the thief is coming in the night. So what do? Well, those of us who are ready, who are alert, we will close our window. When we go to sleep, we will close our door, latch the door, and things like that. Or we are going for a long holiday somewhere else, we make sure that the window grills are all locked up, isn't it? We make sure that the doors are locked up. If we have a safe at home, we make sure that the safe is locked up too. We will do all this to get ready, right? How do we then get ready practically? What should we do? Application number 2. To be alert really means, for us, one of the least things that we should do is to repent from our sins, from our self-rule. If you're ruling your life and Jesus is not the king of your life, you must repent, because the king is coming back. And trust in this Jesus, the same Jesus who gave the warning to the people and says, He's coming back, He's coming. It's the same Jesus who died for your sin and my sin and rose again to save us. Trust in this Jesus and be humble to ask Him for forgiveness, to receive His forgiveness, and make sure that you are reconciled to God. You are not staying as an enemy of God. You are reconciled to God. Are you ready for it? When Jesus is back, when He's sitting on the throne, when you stand before Him, are you His friend or His foe? Are you ready? We have to be. Second, verse 45 to 51. Besides being ready, Jesus says you must be faithful and wise or sensible in NASB. He gives a second illustration like a master going away for a long distance and leaving his servants to manage. The faithful servant, verse 45, will give food in the proper time. What does that mean to be faithful? What does it mean to serve faithfully? Application. Number 3, be faithful and be wise. Use your gift. Use your gift that God has given to you. For Christians, use your gift to reach out to people that have not come to know Christ. Use your gift to encourage other believers along the way, encourage them on in this journey. Use your gift. Don't come to church and warm the pews. We don't have pews here. Don't come to church and warm the seats. Don't come here, enjoy yourself, eat and go back, and not use your gift to serve one another, reach out, and live your life keeping your gift to yourself and not using it. He's coming back. Are you faithful? Use your resources too. To be faithful also means that you have to use your resources. Singaporeans now, there's this hype of investing in property, investing in gold. I have this friend of mine who keep on talking to me about gold and wanting to get me to invest in gold. I got no money to invest in gold. I didn't know that having to come the streets will be made of gold. You'll be like, that's how gold is. But that's besides the point. But we make sure that we use our resources and invest in the gospel work as well. Invest in lives, invest in the advancement of the gospel work. What would be the foolish servant like? Well, he's foolish. Unlike that he's a wicked servant, what will he be? He'll be eating and drinking and get drunk with the drunkards. Verse 49. So the opposite of such folly is to be wise, to be sensible. So the warning is that do not continue in our waywardness of our sin. Do not continue in the waywardness of our sin. Are there some idolatry that we are involved in? And we are not giving up. Money making could be an idol. It's a good thing, but it can be an idol too. We are just constantly making money. That could be an idol in our life. We need to turn away from these ways. Nowadays, Singapore also have this craze for body fitness and shape. Is that also an idol in our life? We are so crazy over some certain body shape and size and look. Is that an idol that we will be pursuing that forgotten about God? Or gaming? Or studying, or learning more and more degree, having more and more property? Are these idols in our life that we need to turn away from? Is there any sexual sins that we are involved in that we need to turn away from? Be wise. Don't be like a wicked servant who get drunk, eat and drink with drunkards who are not wise. And we must be warned of the final judgment to come. Verse 51, Jesus Jesus says, when the master comes, he will catch that evil, wicked servant, cut him to pieces, and assign him into outer darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. What does it mean by weeping and gnashing of teeth? Well, weeping, it could be, in that darkness, the people are regretting. I should have repented. I should have given up. I should have believed in Jesus. They are weeping and weeping. But it's too late. It's too late at the time. Or the gnashing of teeth, they were still being rebellion against God. The gnashing of their teeth. It could be. But the king has come and he will judge. I'm going to show you a summary picture. When this passage was written 2,000 years ago. Just now I showed you, Jesus said we were here. Now we are looking back and says they were there. And AD 70, what Jesus spoke about, the abomination of desolation, it took place already. And from there on until the end of time, these 7 signs are always there and they are increasing in intensity and frequency. It's a time of distress. And one day, the Son of God will come. It will be obvious to the whole world, to everyone. And the next one is, where are we? We are possibly there. I don't know where. We are possibly very, very near. It could be the next moment. It could be later when we go down in our brunch. It could be. We don't know. It could be tonight. But he's coming back. What type of end-time people are you? Are you the blur type? So busy every day with your work, so busy every day with all the business in your life, that you fail to see all these signs in your life that show you that the end time is now and Jesus is coming back. Are you so busy and you can't see any signs? Or are you the second type, the gambler? You saw the sign, but you continue to live your life as you are. Just hope that you may not get caught. You are taking a risk. But it's not worth taking the kind of risk. Because Jesus will find us out. Number 3, are you the apathetic type? You saw the sign, you know that Jesus is coming back, but you don't care. Please do it. Because the eternal weight of our sin, you and me cannot bear. So repent. Be faithful. Be wise. Let's pray. Lord, we know that you are coming back. And many of us, including myself, sometimes the way we live our life, we are not even prepared for your coming back. We are not even living for your second coming. We are living for here and now. And this world has become so comfortably become our home, our eternal home. We pray that God, you convict us our hearts, help us to repent and be prepared for your second coming. Help us to be wise, to stay away from sin. Help us to be faithful, to serve you. And for people who have not come to know you yet in this congregation, people who have not given their life to you, we pray that God, you help them to repent and come to know you personally. Thank you for hearing us. We pray this in Jesus' name.